Hi there. My name is Samuel Ingram. I'm a former performance judoka, and I competed for Great Britain in the major events were 2008 Paralympics, the 2012 Paralympics, and the 2016 Paralympics. I achieved a bronze and a silver, and on my third attempt, I just missed out on a medal. But yeah, I've had a long and varied career in sport.
Um, hi, I'm Brady and I'm currently going to my second year of the school games to play wheelchair tennis. Last year, I went over with one of my partners, Nathan McCabe, who currently does wheelchair basketball for. He was in the Commonwealth Games there, and we both won a silver medal in the men's doubles.
Okay.
So we did, and yeah, so I really enjoy it, and I'm currently also playing wheelchair basketball and wheelchair rugby as other side sports alongside this. So yeah, it's pretty good, and the tennis is great. I love going over and uh, experiencing it, especially last year. It was my first time, and I was expecting just to come home with nothing, but actually, it's just sitting over there. But I have my medal and all, so it's great.
Great stuff. Great stuff. Um, have we explored any questions for sort of about performance or lifestyle and such like? Have you got?
I just wanted,
loaded up?
yeah, I've got a few. So, first one's really, how do you like cope with like defeat or disappointment? Whenever you're playing,
Okay.
because I know when I'm playing last year, I lost my first match in the singles just due to a lot of nerves. But then right after that, I was fine. So I was just always, looking for anything tips wise and how to cope with it.
Yeah, so I'd say there's different points of failure. We'll talk quickly about both of them. So obviously within the circumstance you just said there, sometimes within all sorts different sports, but sometimes you can still lose and continue in the tournament. So in judo, you can go into, if you get to, depends how the competition is structured, but if you get into certain areas of the tournament, you can lose and go into the repechage. So you can still have a chance to either get a bronze medal or get a placing. So that's one type of failure. So that's match failure. And that's something that you have to deal with very quickly. You can't really go into the ins and outs of why it happened and such like, but you can sort of address the issue there and then. I lost to Mr. X or Mrs. Y, and actually I've got another event to do or another match to do. I've got to pick myself up, get myself back in the game. You'd normally be supported by your coach or teammates in this regard because they say, and this is the point in which you can probably make more excuses for yourself just to get through the day rather than address big issues about technicalities of sport and this, that, and the other. So I would never advise anyone to sort of sugarcoat their sort of sporting experience, but this is probably the one time within a day's competition you can sugarcoat it because you need to be in a good mood going forward in the day. There's no need to dwell on things when you've actually got a job to do still. You need to focus on doing that job. So there's that sort of failure. The other sort of dealing with losses is, so within the sport of judo, there's lots of points of failure, so you have to get very good at being able to deal with it because it's a daily occurrence. Within training, you get thrown on your back or someone becomes more dominant of you, and it would be the same in tennis where someone's just got a point past you. That's a failure, right? So we have to be able to consider these things, technically understand them. So why is it happening? Am I doing something incorrectly, or actually am I not reacting in time for whatever they're doing, your opponent is doing? And with the sort of longer term failure, you can really take your time to assess, well, why is this happening? Is it something in the match I'm not doing? As in, am I not physically capable, haven't got the strength, the capacity? Do I understand the rules, as in the technicalities around strategy and such like? And actually, is there anything I can get from my coaching team and support staff to get an edge on that, you know?
Yeah.
And that's how I always dealt with failure. I actually saw failure as a kind of positive because it gives you an opportunity to learn.
Hmm.
Winning is so easy because, I did, and I regret this within my own career. I did very little reflection after winning. I did a lot of reflection after losing, and it's probably the best point to reflect is when you're winning because you've got the right recipe, you're doing the right
Hmm.
things. But it was almost like a free ticket to not put the extra work in after the event. But I would say dealing with it is categorizing it into your head. Is it a point of failure or is it a point to learn? And I
Yeah.
would say the healthy way is to say it's a point to learn. And I think coaches are probably something to help you through that as well, because it's an opportunity for them to learn as well
Yeah.
about who you are and what you do with your skills.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, that's all right. Just
what would you say
it's one
about
of
it?
the yeah. The problem with me is I whenever I do something bad or lose focus and lose something, I get into that bad mindset where like, oh, I can't do this, or I don't
Hmm.
know what I'm supposed to do now.
Hmm.
I'm always thinking negative and never
Hmm.
actually looking and seeing, well, actually, it's all right. I can still do better,
Yeah.
or I can do this to improve.
I would say it's always good to focus on something very small to get you back in the game. All right. So,
Yeah.
for example, in judo, there's all sorts of wrestling techniques and so on and so forth, but there's little triggers that make me do big things. I know that if someone attacks me, I need to move away. I know that naturally. I know that if someone's trying to throw me, I need to brace it. But actually, my coach would have little triggers. One for me was my posture would be bad. So he'd say eyes, and I would look up automatically and adjust my posture. Now, he didn't have to say, adjust your posture. He just had to say a
Yeah.
little trigger, and it got me back into the zone of this is how I need to compete. And all the big things came
Hmm.
natural. So if it is a point in which you do something incorrectly and you need to get back into that focus, it might be right, take my line, bounce my ball, do the next thing. Like have a little
Yeah.
routine because you know how to serve, you know how to return a ball, so it's about just getting your head back into that mindset as
Yeah.
quickly as possible and not letting your mind drift. Because if it drifts, it can drift forever,
Yeah.
you know.
That's something I can start to work on now because
Hmm.
right now my coach Adam is taking me for sort of like private lessons for
Hmm.
training up
Hmm.
until September when I leave. So that's something I can work on because I know, like you said, I know how to do everything. But as soon as that bad mindset hits me, I'm like, oh, I know I don't know how to do
Yeah.
this. I can't serve properly or I can't return properly. So
One of the biggest examples, or the most sort of clearest examples I can see in my head now, and it's something that we have to sort of be careful as well about because these trigger things can become obsessive with people, performancy people. We get a bit obsessive about behavior.
mhm.
Um, with Nadal's touching his face, his nose, and his ears.
Yeah.
We all know that. He's not doing
Mhm.
that because he really wants to touch his nose and his face. It's become habitual, like habit. But that's the moment, and probably which he's thinking about what he needs to do to win the next point.
Yeah.
And the touching his nose and ears is the crutch that allows him to do that. It's
Mhm.
all these are little tiny finite bits of performance now, but
Yeah.
these are the bits that make the difference between winning and losing.
Mhm.
So have a routine to just to focus on getting back into, and it won't be, oh, let's just focus. It'll be deliver the ball, or it'll be state your position on the pitch or mat or whatever you want to, your sport, and you'll have your own little triggers. But get
Yeah.
good at being able to sort of put your finger on the trigger and ready to pull.
That's all right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So another question I've sort of been thinking about just before I went on was how did you, when you began, your journey into judo, how did you develop from where you were? Like, how did you get, to where you are now?
Okay.
Because for me, like, obviously, obviously in Northern Ireland, I'm very small, so I am. So there's only
Hmm.
very few of us that play. So
Hmm.
all the other tournaments are in England, so means I have to travel and stuff.
Hmm.
So I've only been to very little ones, and I
Yeah.
want to know, especially for my other sports, how do I get from where I am now?
Yeah. Okay.
Especially because I'm going towards 18 soon. So have a bit more flexibility, you know.
So what I did, this is a big question, and this is one that you have to obviously have your parents involved or support around
Yeah,
you involved in this question. So I'm very good at copying people. You know, when someone's got a skill and I'd like to learn it, I
yeah,
found myself, even in my early life, just standing next to people, learning from them, right? And then I'd be able to do the skill. I find
mm,
it very easy to, in particular myself, learn visually, ironically, because I can't see very well.
yeah,
But what I did was I grew up in Coventry and I lived in Coventry and trained, and there was a good judo club there and such like. But I knew that that wasn't enough for me. And I knew that I had to find the best people that I could copy my behavior off. And that wasn't just judo techniques, that was behavioral and social issues as well. Like, actually, how do I become one of these people in the environment? So I moved from Coventry in England near Birmingham up to Edinburgh, where there were a multitude of Olympians. And I was actually the only Paralympian, but judo is a very inclusive sport where Olympians and
mm,
Paralympians train exactly the same. So there were people that I knew I would learn from. There were people that I came and tested the water. I visited a couple of times to make sure I got on with people, if I liked the environment, so on and so forth. But I went to different training bases within Britain. So I went to not Dartford at the time. It was Bath University that had a dojo, and I went down to Camberley, the dojo, and I tried Edinburgh. And not that I didn't get on with the other places, I just fitted in better within Edinburgh,
yeah,
and the level of performance at the time in the other athletes was highest. So I knew that these are the guys doing the business at the highest level. So I literally packed my bags, made a date, found a room with some other judo guys, moved in there. By this point, I was fortunate enough to have already had some success, and I was UK Sport funded. So I had an APA from UK Sport that allowed me to pay for my accommodation and so on and so forth. So it wasn't as though I had to get a job on top, which would have been another barrier, obviously. So for me, it was about making a big leap. I'd already left home, I'd already been to university and so on and so forth.
mm,
So those things you have to deal with as well. Like, I knew that I could already cook for myself and clean for myself, and it seems all very easy until you've got to do it all,
mm,
you know. But I'd already left home. Well, I left home when I was 16, so I'd had lots of practice, and then I went sort of full time in judo when I was about 22, 23. So, you know, I'd had much time to be alone and
mm,
support myself generally alone. Um, and actually just move into the best judo environment was the key for me. And one thing led to another, and it literally did pay off, you know. And also, it made long life. I made long life friends, and I met my wife, and you know, many other things happened because I was in a different environment,
mm,
supported by judo.
yeah,
You know, so it is about making. You have to really understand what you want to do within your sporting career, and
yeah.
at some point, you have to take a risk.
I
And
see.
it's okay for it not to work out. It's okay to go, try it for
Mm,
2 years and go, I don't like the training, or my abilities aren't there or will never be. For example, it doesn't matter how much long distance running I do. I'm not going to be a long distance runner. I'm too big. I'm a terrible runner,
yeah,
you know. So, and if I tested that out, you have to be able to say this isn't for me, as well as this is for me.
yeah,
You know, but yeah. At some point, you have to get to the top. You know, I'd say in your position at the moment, use all the resources you can, your gyms, your competitions, your so on and so forth, around where you are.
yeah,
Try and be dominant in those areas as much as possible, and then transition to trips away, and then try and find an environment that you fit into, and you know, that you think that can support you. And if you've got the double-edged sword of linking that with something else in your life, such as education, you're laughing then, because not only can you play tennis, meet some new pals, you can also get your education done,
yeah,
you know, simultaneously, you know. So but there is risk involved, but that's part of
yeah.
sport.
That's what I've been thinking, you know, because over here, it's not that I'm stuck, but I'm just very
Mhm,
limited to what I can
mhm,
do. You know, like there is a few people, guys that are older than me in chairs that I've played against, you know, in competitions,
mhm,
and they've went well, and I've always thought about maybe going to Loughborough University,
Mm-hmm.
just to see because of all the facilities, because I'm a very active and sporty
Yeah,
person, I can't go without any of that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I've always thought, maybe give it a shot and see will this work out, because then I'd be close to everything and I can participate in a lot more than, what I can over here.
Well, actually, I when I left home at 16, I went to Loughborough College. And I wasn't involved in. I did lots of sport. Well, I wasn't involved in sort of higher level judo at that point.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the environment down there is extremely sporting, and there is so many different sports going on and such like. And it is not central England, but very close to. So it's just something that you have to be ready to do in terms of actually, am I ready to move away from home? It's a big leap,
Yeah.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
But like I say, if you can combine that with your education and your sporting career, no doubt you will have fun and you'll develop. You'll also meet loads of people. There's loads of
Yeah.
opportunity to meet people. So,
Mm-hmm.
and even if it doesn't work out, you'll go and get a degree, and you might have a group of friends or a partner at the end of it anyway. Lots of people go into university, I think, thinking, I want to be a professional runner or tennis player or so on and so forth, and it doesn't work out, and that's okay as well. Because you
Yeah.
still get the benefit. The
So
benefit is in the challenge, not in the result.
yeah. Um, sort of it just came into my head there. It's sort of off topic question, but how did you cope, during your time in high school, with your disability?
Hmm.
Because at the minute I've just completed my GCSEs and I'll be going in the sixth form, and then I'll see hopefully uni after that.
Hmm.
And it's just knowing, because I still have not that just a bit of self conscious. I can tell people are still staring at me a bit when I'm out and stuff. Just how you just block that out.
I think it's a thing that will probably never go away from you, and it's a realization within our lives as disabled people. I had the
Mm-hmm.
conversation the other day with someone that, so I've got a visual impairment, which on face value, people don't think, oh, Sam's got a visual impairment, but it's not that bad. But actually, in sunlight, I squint a lot. I always wear sunglasses. I can't see very well in busy areas, but I'm good at hiding it, right? But
Yeah.
I also know, so people don't think, well, not, I'm not even hiding it. I'm just trying to fit in, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but people don't make the assumption that, oh, you can't do normal things such as drive a car or such as read a bus number when it's coming towards you, right? So then you start to go, oh, actually, I understand that there's things I clearly can't do. And I think that's one thing that we have to do as disabled people go, there's some stuff that will restrict us, or not we can't do, it's just a different way of doing things. I found out the bus number by stopping the bus and asking the man. He's not very happy about it. I
Yeah.
get the bus number, right? But it's one of those things where we have to realize that it's a reality. Our disability is a reality, and all we can do is concentrate on ourselves and what other people consider different and such like. It's up to them if they see it as a. I think it's fine for people to notice that it's different,
Yeah.
because I think I am different. Obviously, if people are making stupid comments and rude comments, so on and so forth, I actually don't mind people asking me questions. I find it very relieving. I find it clears the air when people say, "Can you not
Mm-hmm.
see very well?" And I'm like, "Oh, actually, no, I can't." And and they go, "Oh, all right, okay." But you have to be just quite strong. I think you do have to be strong.
Yeah.
And yeah, unfortunately, that is a part of being disabled. It is one of these things where we have to go. And as you get older, and I know as I got older anyway, I accepted my disability more. I
Mm-hmm.
accepted the fact that, yeah, I can't do this. And I actually asked for help more. And I used to probably go without a lot when I was a kid. And now I'd say, excuse me, could you help me read this, please? And so on and so forth, or I can't read very
Yeah.
well, so on. But there are weird little things that you notice yourself doing as a disabled person just to fit in.
Yeah.
But I think they're inherent, like they're just automatic. And I think we just have to really be ourselves and sort of like acknowledge that we're disabled, but
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's not all we are. You know what I mean? Like, you use a
Yeah.
wheelchair. I can't see very well, but that's the same as like me not being able to grow hair on my head. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's just, oh yeah, it's a feature, but do you know what I mean? Like it's just
Yeah.
what it is. But it is difficult, you know, and it's many years since I was at school, and many years since anyone said a direct, you know, very bad comment to me. But
Mhm.
still, even in later life, I get people saying just stupid stuff, and you just have to be able to go swallow it down, move aside. And at some point, the other day, I got to an edge and said, "Look, stop it now." And they were like, "Okay, yeah."
Yeah.
But you have to measure where your edge is on that. I wish
Mhm.
I had a better answer for you on that one, but
No, it's just I've always just thinking about the future, you know, especially going to like uni and even after that, you know,
Mhm,
because I sort of accept myself the minute, you know,
mhm,
because at the school I'm at, everyone knows, you know, everyone sees me every
mhm,
day, so everyone's fine with it. But you know, you still get the odd person who makes the joke
mhm.
or says something, or you know, just even going out in public, and you know, I can tell people are saying stuff. You know, just how do you always conquer that? You
Mhm.
know, or just get to a point where like you know, oh, it's fine, I don't really care.
Yeah, I think it comes with probably age. I think obviously
Hmm.
you're a younger man as well, and even I can remember myself, I was more conscious about myself. And
Yeah.
actually, as time goes on, like some days I don't even look in the mirror anymore. Like I could have
Yeah.
food all over my face. I don't know. I'm not bothered.
Yeah.
And as time goes on, you end up being less self-conscious anyway. And also people, as they mature generally, start to be kinder to one another. You
Hmm.
know, like so actually young or kids and then young adults, they should sometimes be mean and not tamper their voices. But you know, in 20 years, there probably will still be adults saying, "Oh, you know, there's a chap in a wheelchair over there." You know, but
Yeah.
it will be more the fact of there's a chap in a wheelchair over there. I don't know how he got up to the fifth stand in the stadium. Than it will be, oh, look at the spectacle. You know what I mean? It'll be
Yeah.
people will acknowledge you, but not in a negative way. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's a difficult one.
Yeah, I know. I just sort of ignore people now. You
Hmm.
know, I've just got to a point where like I just know if they're going to say something, I just have to ignore it, you know,
Hmm.
especially my parents would tell me that
Hmm.
because I do get to a point sometimes, you know, where I'm like, I really want to lash out at them
Hmm.
and say stuff, but then the other time, like, well, what's the point? You
Yeah.
know,
S-
they
s-
don't understand.
Sometimes it's you know your parents are telling you to ignore them, so I'd take their advice as to ignore them. But I've addressed people directly as well. You know, when
Mm-hmm.
people have, I know that people have said like, you know, why is that guy looking like squinting and this, that, and the other? I say, oh, you're just wondering about my eyesight, and you say, I just
Yeah.
can't see very well. You know,
Mm-hmm.
just in the same sense as, oh, there's a guy in a wheelchair there. Oh, were you just talking about my wheelchair? Oh, it's actually quite a nice one. Yeah, I got
Yeah.
this 2 years ago. It's aluminium, blah blah blah, and you know, I don't walk because X, Y, and Z. That's normally, I think, the reason people talk about others isn't because they don't like the other person or it's a spectacle. It's actually because they're not comfortable themselves around that person.
Yeah.
They're not comfortable in your presence because of them, not because of you, because they haven't got the ability to look over the fact that you're in a wheelchair. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because they would not be able to cope with that themselves. So I think it's a case of you have to tamper that. Some people blank them, some people address them. I actually find children, very young children, very
Yeah.
easy because they're so
Yeah.
natural. What's wrong with your eyes? They say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you can't see very well, and so on and
Always
so
get
forth.
that. See, like when we're out somewhere, there's always one kid that always walks past and either you know points and says, "Oh, he's in a wheelchair" and all, and I sort of just laugh it off because I know at the end of the day they're just kids, they're
Yeah.
just curious, you know.
Hmm.
So, but then when it comes to people my age or older, I have a different
Hmm.
perspective on
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
you know, because I'm like, you know, the right and wrong,
Yeah.
you know, for asking or you know speaking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but sometimes I think you have to just grade that yourself. Some people blank them, some people address them directly. You know, but
Hmm.
you know, follow your parents' advice before mine though, because I
Yeah.
don't want them
No.
knocking on my door.
Oh yeah. um. So, what's been like your biggest achievement in, you know, participating in judo?
um, So I've had some pretty big results, and most people say, "Oh, a Paralympic this and a Paralympic that, or a World Championship," and I don't necessarily. I kind of messed up a bit in London in the finals. I'd snapped my ACL in my leg
Mm-hmm.
and damaged on my knee a few times, so my preparation was really quite bad. But within my career and my ability, I should have won the event, and I lost. Partly due to a previous injury and not preparing properly, and partly just the match got away from me, really. Right. So most people expect me to say, "Oh, this result," because it's a reasonably big result.
Yeah.
But actually, as my career is finished, I realised that the results and the fighting in particular, the competing, don't really remember it much. I don't really have many memories of it. I think my sort of biggest achievement is becoming a judoka, like becoming not someone that does judo, like I am a judo player,
Yeah.
it wasn't thing I did, it was who I was. And being able to just sort of manage that and direct my life in a way in which actually I was in control of my life. I was doing something that I really wanted to do and I loved. And actually I was getting supported by the UK sport and so on and so forth to do it. And for me, that was just like, that was probably the big achievement looking back. And it was all the
Yeah.
training I did and the friendships I made. And now
Mhm.
I met my wife via judo, and I've got two kids with another one on the way with her. So I suppose that's definitely sort of from my sporting career,
Yeah.
that's definitely my biggest achievement. But actually, the results now they seem a bit like a means to an end because I just love training as well. I love
Hmm.
pushing myself, and I really loved um, like crazy hard training, deep
Yeah.
training. So I suppose it's just being able to be in a position. My biggest achievement is being able to be in a position to push myself as hard as I
Hmm.
possibly could. Results come in, great. If they don't, they hurt at the time, but later on, you kind of go, "Yeah, I'm still the
Yeah.
same person whether I got gold that day or silver. It don't matter."
Mm.
you know. But I would say focus on the good times you
Yeah.
can have and try to achieve them. Get some good mates, get a nice environment to train in. Go after that because your mates and the environment will drive you to success.
Yeah. I am.
So, and that will be
I agree with you. I'm very into my training.
hmm
Sometimes I enjoy my training more than the actual, you know,
hmm
playing itself,
hmm
especially tennis. I love all my coach gives me really hard drills, but
hmm
I love doing it because I know I can get better at the more I do it. So I
hmm
like a more intense workout
hmm
or training than actually, going and playing.
Yeah, yeah. Oh no, I think it's very common within performance as well. And the more
Mm,
performance you do, I think, well, for me anyway, and I know some of the judoka have been like this, that actually early results are like a honeymoon period. And then you go into the sort of middle results where you're like, I'm doing well, I'm X, Y, and Z on the world ranking. And
mm,
as your career sort of dwindles on, especially if you have a dip in performance, then results start becoming a relief. So you're like, oh, I'm relieved I won. And for me, I didn't feel as much joy at the end. I felt more relief. But I'd also built up pressure and pressure and pressure on myself. So I found
mm,
training so easily because there was no pressure on training. So I actually really enjoyed that. And actually, I was just happy that I moved to a great place and I could surround myself with people that were also pushing themselves. So that was a
yeah,
big achievement. But I didn't realize at the time. I just thought the achievements were the results at the competitions.
yeah,
But little did I know, looking back.
mm,
I'd love to be in your position again, starting out a career.
yeah. No, that's what I love because, you know, for me, especially in the tennis, I'm still in that stage where I'm starting out.
Mhm,
I haven't really got that stage now, like all those other tennis players, like
mhm.
Ben, who are competing nonstop. I'm still at that tiny stage where I can do whatever I want. I can
Yeah.
work on things that I love, things I hate, like serving,
Mhm.
but I don't have to worry about, you know, success just yet.
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
still have that time to work on it and then I can
Mhm.
worry about all that.
Yeah, I think, and that's the thing, like, concentrate on the things that you want to concentrate on, and the success will happen. Because
Yeah.
at the end of the day, if if you're not enjoying those little things that you have to do to be successful, if you're not enjoying them, then you probably won't be able to have the capacity to actually put so much effort into them that you'll win in the end. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, because actually, if you go in, oh, I've got to do my serving practice again today, you probably won't go in at 100%. You'll go in at 90. And over 10 sessions, that's one session missing. Do you know what I mean? And that all adds up to performance. One of the things I always say, right, and I sort of later in my career sort of said it, not always actually, it was sort of, I said it later in I think in an interview, and I thought, that makes sense. Every session counts, right? Whether it's a hardcore training session, whether it's a gym session, whether it's just mobility and stretching, or just like actually taking time out of the sport as a session. You know what I mean? It's funny because sometimes we classify relaxation as a session, recovery as a session. I'm going for a walk. Every session counts, right? And emotionally tally them up, because every time you're working quite hard or doing what your coach has asked of you, then it all adds up. And if you're enjoying that training, it just becomes a huge bank of resources to like pull upon in the future, So I'm glad you enjoy the training, because if you'd said the opposite, you got a lot of misery to get through.
Especially seeing like all 3 sports I play, I have those 3 days a week, and I just enjoy just that feeling of, I get to do training now, at night or during the day. And I think really for me in my position right now, if I was being hit with a lot of competitions all the time, I don't think I'd feel the same. It would just be more like constant pressure of, oh, I have to go play this now, or I have to go and compete against these people.
Well, it's one thing as well, like, and it depends what age you are, but also it depends what sort of sport you're doing. But we generally within sport, the sort of, there was all myths in the past about 10,000 hours. If you do 10,000 hours at something, you're fantastic. I'm pretty sure, like, I've done 10,000 hours walking in my life, and I'm probably no better than the person next to me who's done 5,000, right? So it's a little bit of a myth, those skill acquisition things, right? But with sport, I like the fact that you're not just doing one. Like, so what we don't want is early specialization. And you're a little bit further down the path, but also you've got other complications because you do a fringe sport, and there's not that many people to compete against and such like. But actually doing multiple sports, as I did as a teenager, you get so many transferable skills and abilities, from your basketball. All your turning in with the basketball will have a direct impact on your turning with on the court when you're playing tennis. You know what I mean? And actually, you have to be careful that they don't go against each other. But the fact that you're still sort of dipping your toe in other sports just allows you to have more friends, more social interaction, more opportunities to achieve, more opportunities to learn. And when you're not under any pressure right now, I'd say it's a very, very, very good place to be, And if for whatever reason it doesn't happen in tennis, you could also say, well, actually, might join a different team and have a go there, and this, that, and the other. I think you're very wise to continue to do, 3. And if you do go more specialist down the road of tennis, maybe drop one of them, but try and keep other things in your life besides just the sport. I got very focused like this on judo. And after my career sort of started to come to an end, if I hadn't got my family and this other things going on, I would have been a little bit at a loss. So, I think it's very much wise to keep multi-sports going. I was the same as a teenager. I did like swimming club on a X day, athletics the next day, multi-sport and games the next day. I was always in a club, so it's good.
I know, that's what I love. I can't go a day without doing sports or doing something active, because I also use crutches as well. And I always go and play football with my brother. It's one of those things where it's like, I can't not work out or do a sports. It's sort of just in my system now where, if I don't do it, I'm going to feel like rubbish.
Yeah, I think, your brain will be telling you this thing. Sport, like anything that we enjoy, it's a little drug. We get a sort of a boost from doing it. So do it more. it takes a lot of effort for sport to become destructive. And if you
Yeah.
become a performance player, then your body starts to break down a little bit, and this, that, and the other. And maybe sport isn't as good for you as the adverts make out. But
Yeah.
actually, if you're doing loads of different sports and you're doing them for fun, keep doing that. Keep doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It's good. It's good.
All right.
What else
Just well, firstly, would you have any questions to ask me or anything?
Oh,
Sort of reverse it around here.
no, that's good. That's good. I like that. What are your aspirations within your tennis career, or sort of, let's say, if it's not tennis, it's something else. Like, what?
Yeah.
You're a very sporty person. I can tell you're driven. What level
Mm-hmm.
do you want to get to? And I'll say,
I think,
there's a double question here. One sec. Let me get through this
yeah,
first. What
it's
level
okay.
would you like to get to? Right, because I quite like this question. I've done this with the
Mhm.
judoka in the past. And
Yeah.
what level would you be satisfied with? Right. So if you had to walk away, what level would you be satisfied? So where would you like to be, and where would you be
Mm-hmm.
satisfied with?
I think for the tennis in like the next coming years or so, if it works out, I would like to be in that position where, where you're ranked in a system. I think I'd be satisfied if I was somewhere in between there,
Mm-hmm.
or at a level where I know I'm not bad, but I'm also not, like the very best. I'm sort of in that in
Okay.
between place where, like, I'm satisfied of how I play. I know I play well. I know I can succeed, in a lot of things. And I think as well, I would like to participate more in, competitions like we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
over in England. So, and collect rewards, so at least
Okay.
I can look back and say, well, I may not be the number one, but I got to a place where I earned a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and that's that satisfaction of knowing, I got to that place.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think it's, from what I hear from you before, and you drive, there's no reason why that shouldn't happen. There's
Yeah,
risk involved. You potentially have to change your life and such like.
yeah,
But again, there's nothing wrong with having a go and then saying, "This ain't for me."
yeah.
There's. I think as sportsmen, we put this thing on ourselves that things have to be successful. They don't. And it's the faster
Mm-hmm.
we learn that, the faster we know we can walk away. It's so much easier to do the professional sport when tomorrow I could just walk away if I want, and
Yeah,
if you can keep in that position, it's great. But if you can get into that sort of realm of on the ranking list, talent development, let's say phase it is,
mm-hmm.
there's no reason why you just can't keep plugging, put yourself in a good position, surround yourself with people that are strong and support you. Just keep plugging away
Yeah.
and get yourself up that ranking list. So if that's where you'd like to be. What's your lowest level of satisfaction?
Uh, do you mean
That.
like
So for
somewhere where
example,
I'm not happy with?
yeah, no. So for example, I would say in my early career, I know what one of my goals was. I wanted to be European, World, and Paralympic champion simultaneously. So it had to be all in
Mm-hmm.
one package. And I managed silver in the Paralympics, silver in the Worlds, and gold in Europe. So I missed off on two positions really, and it was disappointing. But that was my goal. What the bottom level of satisfaction was: go to the Paralympics, get a medal. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
what would you least be satisfied with? It'd still be like, yeah, that's good. I'll walk away and be happy.
Well, I think sort of similar to you, and I think I had the same wish last year for the school games, which was, you know, win uh, a lot in my singles and finish, at the very top, first, second, or third, and that'd be me,
Hmm. Okay.
And
Okay. Okay.
obviously that didn't happen last year. It was obviously the doubles instead,
Hmm.
but it was still that satisfaction of, well, I walked away with the medal,
Right. Okay. That's good. That's
So
good.
I think I'm sort of more that person. I have a few of them just sitting up there as well, but
Hmm.
I think for me last year, even though I didn't hit, even though we didn't beat the number one players
Hmm.
in the finals, I think it was just more that satisfaction of, well, I got this medal here
Yeah.
and I can bring it home and I can wave
Yeah.
it about,
Yeah.
So I think
I,
that's what hit me.
I think that's a healthy way to be, and I wasn't like that at all in my early career. I was just like, I need to win everything.
Mm-hmm.
But actually, as time moved on, and I think I most noticed it when I asked somebody else that question. So I asked somebody that was going for the Olympics, didn't get to the Olympics, but said, I want to represent GB at this, like a judo tournament, a specific judo tournament. And they managed it. And they walked away in their career, not being an Olympian, but saying, you know what, I got to that point. And even for myself, looking back, actually, if I'd sort of addressed this question myself, like actually, what's the bottom level of satisfaction? I way surpassed that in my career. But I hadn't even asked myself because I was obsessed with winning,
Yeah.
rather than, well, if I had to stop tomorrow because I got a brain injury, actually, I'd be perfectly happy with one Paralympic medal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Hmm.
it's a good question to have always in the back of your mind because it just relieves a bit of pressure.
Yeah.
So, but
That's
what else?
right.
What else we got?
I think I just sort of one last thing I've sort of got in my head is what advice would you give me after us talking here as well and my experience last year, for going ahead this year to this year's
Hmm.
school games, because obviously I'm going this year with two new people
Right.
who
Okay.
are younger than me, to
Okay.
play with me and
Hmm.
stuff. And obviously, I know the place around, but what advice would you give me, going against? Because now I'm a lot more confident, playing. I don't really have nerves anymore, and I sort of
Hmm.
know how, to play my game.
Hmm. Okay. What advice would I give you? All right. Well, I would say before the talk, like, widely control the controllables. So everything that you can control,
Hmm.
you can have an impact on it. So you can worry about it. You can make sure you've got your rackets with you. You make sure you've got your lucky pants with you if you need lucky pants or
Yeah,
whatever it may be. I wouldn't ever recommend that because one day you'll forget your lucky pants and it
yeah.
becomes a thing that you can never satisfy, right? So,
Mhm.
but whatever you can control, you can control. Remember everything else that you can't control. Don't get upset about it. Don't waste energy on it. I think going into tournaments, there's huge amounts of sort of energy just seeping out of athletes, worry, stress.
Yeah,
Athletes, judo players, we lose a lot of weight. So we're putting a lot of effort into that. And it's one of these things where if you can control it, you can have an impact on it. If you can't control it, don't put stress into it and effort into it because it's effort that you could be putting into the ball in the next match.
yeah,
So I would definitely say that. I would say have clear objectives within the game, have clear objectives within each point. We call them in judo exchanges, but you know a point, and just really focus on that. And again, if you win, remember to reflect. That isn't just because you win. It's not a moment to put your racket down and go, oh yeah, I'm the best, and
yeah.
so on and so forth. I don't need to learn because we all need to learn. And
Hmm.
take the opportunity, whether you win or lose, to learn as much as you can. I don't know if you keep a training diary or sort of jotter with you, but
I have been the last couple of weeks, and
Mhm,
I think that's one of the things I will do, especially getting to near time, is keep a clear, like point thing of
mhm,
what I want
mhm.
and how I will do it.
Yeah,
Because I don't want to go over there like last year and be like, I've no idea what I'm doing here.
yeah,
I
yeah,
sort of
yeah,
want
yeah.
and uh a drive to know, what I want to do, and then that's
Mhm.
it.
Yeah, I think that's and like I said earlier, you can have little triggers to remember that because you won't be able to have your notebook on the court.
Hmm.
So it might be right, get to your point, consider the match, right, 30, 40 down or whatever it may be. Consider what you're going to do. Have a little routine in your head,
Yeah,
and try to get that routine and your sort of technical points that you can work out with your coach aligned. If your routine doesn't give you space to think about what you're going to do in the next exchange or next point, sorry, then it's probably not a long enough routine, or maybe you need to bounce the ball a little bit, have a little.
yeah,
It's these things are perfect, like personal, very personal. And once you find your sort of little routine as to go, right, what do I want from the match? What do I want from this next sort of few points? What do I want from this literal point? Then
hmm,
you'll get much more concise. And I think athletes just, like professional athletes, just block out more and more of the stuff that they can't control and focus more and more on the stuff they can
yeah,
control. And you get more efficient and better at that. But things like notebooks will help you. But you may get to
yeah,
a point in which you actually think, well, I'm putting too much effort into this notebook. It's distracting me, but you kind of have to find your own way, but at the same time use people around you to learn off and try different things. You know, like
Mm-hmm.
if you think, even if you're successful, well, this might work for me, have a go. And even sort of when you're not competing directly, you can sort of do practice matches where you potentially say, actually, we're going to play a full game here. So we're going to be here for 3 hours. Or whatever you may be able to imitate these points to go, actually, I get nervous in the third set. So I'm going to play 2 sets and see what it feels like to go to the third set and keep doing
Yeah.
that. But, you know, for this time in particular, keep your notebook, have clear goals, control what you can control, and let everything go past you that you can't
Yeah.
control. And after which, try and keep learning and progressing as much as possible. But
Yeah. That's good.
I think you've got a mature head on your shoulders, and you know, I think you're clearly focused on what you want to do and succeed.
Yeah. It's all right. Thank you. I just needed a wee bit of, advice, just because normally I'm the type to just goes, head first, and then
Mhm.
I end up, swimming in the deep end where I'm like, oh no, I don't know what to do. I start panicking, and then I look around to my dad, who's, coaching me, and then I look at my coach, and they're all sitting me like, well, I don't know what to do,
Yeah,
and then I'm sort of sitting there like, oh no, and then that's when my, at the start we were talking about
start
my,
panicking.
yeah, I start panicking. I'm like, oh, I can't do this. I'm gonna lose.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, like I say, like I like a routine. And even if, let's say, you start doing a routine and it sends you in the wrong direction, at some point in your tennis career, you're going to have a routine. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's one of these
Mm-hmm.
things where it may not be perfect right now, but you're probably going to have a routine to do. And the more you can control your thoughts from going off that path, the better, I would say. You know, but
Mm-hmm.
I've been in exactly the same situation where you're like, I literally don't know. I've literally like held my hand up to my coach, like, like I don't know what to do. Help me. But sometimes, I'm not by any means your coach or anything like that. But in judo, sometimes you have to go off the plan, especially if you can't see a route through.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You've got a map in front of you and every way is blocked. Sometimes you just got to go off the track and walk around, sort of thing. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that works, but that's athlete creativity, and that's what we go back to earlier. Concentrate on the small points. You can do all the big stuff. You can do all
Yeah.
that. Do you know what I mean? You can return a ball. You can do this. You can do that. Just like I can react if someone tries to throw me. Actually, I need to concentrate on tiny things of posture, and everything else comes into
Yeah.
place. So
Mm-hmm.
it's it might be for you, concentrate on court position, and
Yeah.
actually you can return any ball,
Mm-hmm.
because the sort of wheeling and striking the ball is natural. Just
Yeah.
concentrate on the support position. I don't know what it
Mm-hmm.
is for you, but your coach will be able to work that out. But
No, yeah.
I'm confident that you're going to have a successful games.
That's all right. Thank you.
Nice.
Well, that's all I really have to
Right,
speak
cool.
about today.
Wow, so that's good. Well, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you.
I didn't really know how long how it was going to be, and sort of
Yeah.
what the rapport was going to be like, but I'm confident.
Oh,
But
yeah. Wait, I have one more thing. Sorry.
go on.
Do you know about the people called backup? They're
Hmm.
sort of like, would you advise me to get into things, like maybe a part-time job where I can talk to other people similar to me, to give advice out?
Oh,
Like, would
okay.
that be something that could help me, at the stage I'm at now? Would that maybe be a good thing for me to do, like influence and talk to other people,
Other people
who
with
are,
disabilities, you mean?
yeah, like, would that be something maybe that could help me, because then I'd be talking to other people about how my experiences
Yeah,
stuff.
I think you were a lot more mature than I was at your age, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So it's strange for me to consider, like, oh, actually, this kid lad, because I don't think when I was your age, I would necessarily have the ability to do that. But
Mm-hmm.
if you think that's something, if it will pay you, fantastic. A job with money in your pocket is
Yeah.
always great. If you'll meet new people, great. If you can help people and get satisfaction from that, great as well. So I
Yeah.
don't think there's any reason for you to not take any job that you could potentially do.
Mm-hmm.
And if you'll get extra satisfaction from supporting others with disabilities, 100%. But I also think that you know, I think those of us with disabilities, and part of my sort of personal goal is to make inclusion genuinely inclusion. So eventually, I'd like the word and everything about inclusion to disappear, because that's like saying, oh, again, we need to include bald men in the world. I've never heard that, right? That's never been discussed. I've never seen that, or like had that thing at all. I'd like it to get to that point where there actually is no services for disabled people, because we're just people, you know.
Yeah.
But I would say I think that's a long way away, and a lot of work to be done before that point.
Yeah.
But I would say, you know, you just because you've got a disability as well, you don't have to get a job around your disability. If you want to, because you feel comfortable and you support others, great. But you can do what you want, you know, within reason. Because we spoke about that earlier. I'm not going to be a taxi driver anytime soon. You know,
Yeah.
I'll wants to drive. So, you know, you know, I definitely think you would support other people, and if it's going to pay you and you'll get skill and ability and move forward, yeah, you can do anything though. It doesn't have to be that, you know. So, you know, take your time. It's okay to fail. When we win, and whether we win and we lose, is an opportunity to learn in terms of life as well as sport, you know. But one thing before I came on, actually, I thought I need to mention this is, I think as athletes, we definitely make time to train.
Yeah.
You need to make time to socialize. You need to make time to be a normal person as best you can outside your sporting career. You know, you might not be able to have, you might be able to just, you're over 18, aren't you? But you might be able to have 3 points instead of the 6 points that your mates are having. But, you know, make sure that you make time to be away from sport as well, because I think it can become a bit encompassing. So just make sure as much as you plan your sessions in the gym, make sure you plan your cinema time and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, you need that personal time and space to breathe.
That's all right.
But no, well, good luck, man. And I'm very confident.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
See you later.
See you
Thank
later,
you.
pal.